Hello, Frizzle 4s. Here are all the books I've given 5 stars. And today we're going to be doing an audit on these. I'm going to be exploring these books and asking myself, like, what do these books have in common? What tropes and things in books really draw me to them and make me give it 5 stars? Some quick housekeeping points. If there's lots of books in the same series that I gave 5 stars, I've represented them as one picture here, so things are slightly condensed. And if you want to hear me talk more about every one of these books, I've done a ranking video where I ranked all of my 5 stars. I'll link that video in the footnotes for you. And I've also done a video that was everything I love and hate in books, which was more about bigger things like big genres and big phenomena that I love in books. But here I'm trying to get into the little detail niche things that I love in books. So let's kick it off. I'm nervous. Am I allowed to be nervous? I'm nervous. So what do these books have in common? One that's jumping out to me in a lot of these books is kind of the trope of the world is ending, but also the rent is due, where you have like a large magical threat that you have to take care of and it's big high stakes, and then it's like, oh yeah, but also like my rent is due, or also there's like this small concern that like maybe wouldn't matter in the face of the world ending, but also if you save the world, like your rent is still going to be due the next day, and just having to juggle like those big grand hero concerns and the small everyday concerns, I love it. So let's find some books where this happens in. Definitely An Inheritance of Magic. Minimum Wage Magic. The Scorpio Races has some of that energy. Definitely the Dresden Files series, one of the best examples of this trope. I've just found these 4 for now, but maybe other ones will come to me as I brainstorm. Let's think of another thing. Oh, and there's a bonus version of this video where I'm also bringing in all of my favorite TV shows and movies into this categorization. Very fun. That's available for my patrons with the higher tiers on Ko-fi. One of my favorite things is like a prickly protagonist fails to make friends. There's quite a few examples of this. I think A Study in Drowning fits in with that. Sherlock Holmes in Homecoming could also fit into that. Emily Wilde from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, both fire and another book in this interconnected universe following a different protagonist, Graceling. Charles, one of the protagonists in the Alpha and Omega books. A Deadly Education has this in spades. Ooh, so does Renegades. This is so much more than I was even expecting. The Murderbot Diary series. Ender's Shadow, 100%. This is spin-off from Ender's Game, but I like the spin-off books better. I Am Not a Serial Killer. So why do I love this trope so much of a protagonist who is very internal, who at the beginning of the book doesn't want to make any friends, is too dangerous, is too angsty, and then throughout the book, of course, slowly finds friends and opens up and really connects with someone. And this story just always resonates with me. I love the character arc getting tied in with forming relationships with people, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever, just starting from like the point of isolation and then blossoming out to the point of actually finding a support system. And like every time this gets me and I love it. Do you have any recommendations for me? Let me know. Going back to the books, what else can we find here? I think one of the through lines here is romance with no meet cute. Because, you know, the typical romance, as soon as the love interest shows up, you know that's the love interest. The love interest is giving off huge love interest vibes. They're so hot and awesome from the get-go, even if they're really rude and mean. But I really love romances that kind of take me off guard, where the book starts off and I meet the love interest and like it could totally go over your head. Like the romance develops so slow burn slowly that like even from the meet cute, you don't know what's happening. So books where this could happen, The Witch Would Not has this. I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler that these include romances, but you'll have to guess which character it is with anyway. When Among Crows has this. By a Silver Thread has this. I think The Raven Boys has some of this energy, even though from the very get-go there's a prophecy that 2 characters are fated to be together, like it still fits the energy. Mistborn Era 2 has this. And I did not expect to be putting Mistborn Era 2 into a romance category, but it has it, you know, if you've read it. I feel like The Host has this with one of its love interests. It's got a goofy love triangle, but one of them is more subtle than the other. Warbreaker. Ooh, Paladin of Souls also got this. War for the Oaks. Finder has this. This isn't a lot more of my favorites than I was expecting, honestly. This will have to be another double wide section. There we go. Romance without a meet cute. I think this category can also be extended to the feeling of slow burn romance in general. I love it when a book just like takes its time with the romance and really like builds it slowly. Doesn't make a huge deal about it, doesn't focus so much on the physicality and the lust of it, just like have it there in the background, simple, fun. Yes, yes, I love it. What do we have next? I think we've got one here that's kind of like intersection of different cultures. Culture clash, there's the word I was looking for. Where we have multiple protagonists that are like from such vastly different cultures and peoples, usually from different fantasy races, that like when they get smashed together, there's a lot of adjustment that has to happen there. And this can be adjustment that leads to a friendship or a romantic relationship, but I just love that trope so much. Here we've got The Book That Wouldn't Burn has this. Ocean's Echo. The Rarkin's Familiar has this. Nice Dragons Finish Last has this. Taming Demons for Beginners. The 𝐓𝐍𝐻𝐎𝐓𝐄𝐒 saga series has quite a bit of this, where characters are going from planets to planet. Animorphs has also some of this with their aliens. Other ones, ooh, Emily Wilde has this. We'll copy that from over here. Renegades has this. The Witch Would Not, When Among Crows, The Host, Warbreaker, and War for the Oaks. And then we can just make these all extra tall, as it obviously needs. Okay, now we're off to the next page. What are we gonna find next? Looking at what's left, I think I wanna make a category called like STEM slays, because I love like an engineer protagonist. I am an engineer, and I love when I find that in books, when it's represented well, like yes, yes, yes. So, the soulmate equation fits that. Gotta count Navani from The Way of Kings, of course. Our engineer queen. Rules of Redemption, our protagonist is a roboticist. Ooh, in The Aeronauts Windlass, one of our characters is also an engineer. Biography of Feynman. Scumble is about a kid with mechanical magic. Super fun. Got some nice engineers in the 𝐓𝐻𝐻𝐒𝐒 saga. Ditto for the Animorphs books. And the Renegades. All Systems Red has got to count for something there. Definitely characters from Mistborn era too, doing all their little CSI experiments. I think that's it for now. Why do I really love the STEM Slays books? It's like, I am an engineer and I love to see that representation in books. I feel like books are so often exploring like the love of literature and the power of stories, and like, yeah, that's important, I agree, but like, it's so oversaturated. And then when we get into something different, like the love of science and of math and of engineering and solving our problems that way, like I'm just so fascinated about it and I resonate so much with it. What is next? What else do I love? I think we gotta put in here detective duo. I love mysteries in my books, but I most love a character-focused detective duo where they have a little bit of conflict, a little bit of fun together, really bouncing off each other. Yes, yes, yes. There's gonna be so many detective duos, I can feel it. Ooh, Lost and Found. I Hunt Killers. There is one main protagonist, but definitely a lot of interesting, fun sidekicks that would land in there. Renegades has some of that energy. So does The Witch Would Not. And definitely Homecoming, a Sherlock Holmes reimagining, of course. The Alpha and Omega series, entirely detective duo energy all the way home. A couple solving mysteries, same as the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐻𝐿. I love that dynamic. Ooh, Finder has a detective duo, along with lots of books in the Dresden Files. So what do I love detective duo stories? I love having a mystery. I love having that puzzle to solve, but I don't always love straight up mystery books because I feel like they're not quite character focused enough. But I feel like by the time you get a duo, where you get a detective partnership, the way that they can bounce off each other can create conflict, can create character arcs and relationships and resolution to all of that. And I just love the dynamic of a detective duo bouncing off of each other like that. Like, it is what makes a mystery entertaining to me. Okay, going up here, we're starting to get a little sparse. I'm sure I can think of things though. I think we're gonna call this next one Unusual Powers, Unusual Solutions. Because yes, I love a book where a character has powers, but I love it even more when those powers are like a hindrance to them, when there's a disability that goes along with the ability of these powers and like smashing them together, and seeing how they navigate the world both through their awesome superpowers and through the disabilities and handicaps that come connected to those powers. So here we've got some examples. The Time Traveler's Wife, where time travel is not always fun or helpful. Savvy is one that does this, along with its partner book, Scumble. The Sapphire Flames books, Stronger, definitely Daredevil. Ooh, Falcon has some of this too, along with Bone Dance. Do I dare put some of these in there? Animorphs, both Fire and Graceling. Definitely the werewolf abilities in the Alpha and Omega series. Wow, some of these things get way bigger, way faster than I think. Ooh, definitely our protagonist with Penchant for Mass Destruction in A Deadly Education. Bias Silver Thread powers are also like this. Blue's kissing ability in the Raven Boys. I love the idea of like your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. Is also when you combine them and find new interesting solutions to overcome the weakness becomes your greatest strength in a new way. The idea of like there's no free lunch, of like just because you have superpowers doesn't mean that it's all fine and dandy, but also the idea of like, and just because your life isn't all fine and dandy, it doesn't mean you can't overcome it and become even stronger in a new way because of the skills you've had to develop around your abilities. We are getting few and far between. What do these have left? What do I love about these books? Ooh, I've got one. This one will be hopefully a small one, because that'll fit very nicely here. Connecting with children. Either children that are your own, children that you're just taking care of. I've got quite a few books like that. Like here we've got Fool's Errand. I read the entirety of the Realm of the Elderling series. It's a long series, and this is the only book of the series I gave 5 stars, and a lot of that is because this is the book where our character connects with his son, and it's so good. So angsty, so drama-filled, so fraught, and so entertaining. We also have Be Frank With Me, about a nanny taking care of someone's son, and The Flying Troutmans, about an aunt taking care of her niece and nephew. I almost want to put Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell there, and I think I will. I think it needs to go in another category too, but like, it's also got a grumpy old man connecting with a young adult, and they almost have a father-son vibe. These ones that are left, I can't think of any categories that connect them, but let me know if you think of anything. In the meantime, let's do some small funny categories. Like, for example, we've got a serial killer leaning teenage boy hunts actual serial killers, which of course gets both I am not a serial killer and I hunt killers. They have very similar vibes and plots, and I love them both. We also have the trope of alien invaders that squirm into brains for mind control in multiple books. Which is both the Animorphs, the Host. We also have a boy with magical finding abilities helps the police on a case. Dude, I swear, how do I even get this specific and have multiple examples? Finder and Lost and Found. Ooh, I've got one. And it includes books I haven't categorized yet. This one will just be called Delves into Psychology, because there's a few left uncategorized that do that a lot. Like maybe you should talk to someone, a memoir of a therapist. And also The Emperor's Soul, definitely about what makes someone tick. I think The Goblin Emperor would also fit into that. It's deeply character focused. I'm not a serial killer. A little less so I hunt killers. I'm gonna put it in anyway though. And the Animorph series. I'd put the Vorkosigan Saga books there. Looks like we're gonna need a little bit more room for this buddy. I think A Study in Drowning would go there. It's got a lot of discussions about sanity. Probably A Deadly Education as well. Ooh, definitely The Way of Kings books. Quite a lot on different mental illnesses and ways of seeing the world. I think that's it for Delves into Psychology. Why do I love books that delve into psychology? I think like it's just so fascinating to really like ask the question of like, okay, why does this person think the way that they think? Just like what makes them tick? I love that intense character focus of like not only exploring, oh, here's our character's flaw, here's their personality, but then like also why? And like how does everything tie into that? Let's see what's left. Can I think of any more categories? Can we get every single one of these books into a category? Please, please. Ooh, I thought of one! Yes! the it was meant to be. And there's a few different ways that this could go. For things like The Observer Effect, which is a time travel book, it was meant to be because it's time travel. Because you can go back into the past and try to change things, but you can't because it was just meant to be, right? But we also have that trope in a few other ways here. Ooh, The Book That Wouldn't Burn has some interesting also dimension hopping time travel shenanigans. Animorphs also has some of those interesting plot lines as they get into time travel. The Alpha and Omega series has this in fated mates, like it was meant to be in a romantic sense. A Deadly Education series also has this, but it would be a spoiler telling you how. So does The Raven Boys. The Dresden Files has some of this energy. The Soulmate Equation also has this energy of fated mates. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. The Time Traveler's Wife has this in spades. It's both time travel and fated mates kind of romance. You got it both. And I think that's it for this category. So why do I love this trope of it was meant to be? I think the most I love about this trope isn't that, oh, the ending is just a foregone conclusion, it was fated, whatever. And oftentimes it's fated in a romantic entanglement sense, but some of these are fated in different ways, like you're just fated to be the chosen one. You were always meant to be that. I think I love it not for just, oh, it's a foregone conclusion, blah, blah, blah. I love it when it creates extra conflict in the story. I love it when the characters push back and they're like, hey, wait, I don't want that fated mate. Hey, wait, I don't want to be the chosen one. I don't want it to be this way. Why does the time travel have to work this way? And when the characters are really like working against it, I love that conflict. And I love like the resolution that often comes when like by the end of the story, the character realizes that like, oh wait, no, this is the way that it needed to be. Like even though they weren't fine with it up front, through the character development of the story and seeing it from different angles, they come to appreciate the way it needs to be. I don't want to leave these uncategorized. We gotta think of some more categories that they can fit into. What do I love about these books? Ooh, for at least two of these, I've got something. And I expect this will be a larger category, which is we fixed each other, where a couple falls in love and they enable each other's character arcs. And there is some of this in Winterkeep. It also happens in A Far Wilder Magic. And I'm sure so many other books. Let's find them. I think there's some of this in Emily Wilde's. Definitely in Fire. Ocean's Echo in Spades. The Alpha and Omega series. Sapphire Flames books. Definitely the Renegade series. They push each other so far in that book. Ooh, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's not a romantic relationship, but it is a platonic, mentor-y friendship that leads to them fixing each other. The Host. There's some of this in Graceling, not as strong as some of these other examples though. Ooh, I think there's also some of this in Warbreaker. And do I dare to hope that there's another or not? Because we aren't going to be able to fit it very well. Well, I don't think there's any other examples anyway, so it fits perfectly. So why do I love the we fixed each other trope? I think like I already love character arcs. I love romance. And this combining the two where their character arcs are supported by the romance itself, where through them growing closer together, they find their flaws, they find support to overcome them, and then also that makes them more compatible. It's like this wonderful loop where becoming a better person through a character arc makes them more prepared for a relationship, and the relationship makes them more prepared for the character arc. And I love that intertwinement of it all. I think it just makes a romance like so much sweeter to be making each other stronger and challenging each other in constructive ways. Now, what do I like about Revenant Prince and Skyward that doesn't fit into any of these categories yet? Because it's got to be something that overlaps with their books, right? And I think actually these can be summed up with the same example, which is high stakes structure. I think this is going to be a big category. Let's go find all the ones that fit in here. We got Revenant Prince and Skyward. So what do I mean by high stakes structure? Because I like books with high stakes. I like really highly structured stories where like there's the beginning, middle, and end, and you know exactly where you are along the way. Like, yes, sometimes I can like books that give you unusual things, but most of the times I like books that just kind of like play their structure safe. Like here we got the beginning, we got the middle, we got the end, we got the normal plot points, we got the normal resolutions, and the pacing is just like even. But I also love books that like combine that and add on top of it like a really high stakes frenetic feeling. Like if someone can pull off both the feeling of like a book that's highly structured and like perfectly paced, and also that perfect pacing is fast paced, where you have the high stakes fast pace of it all, yes. Let's rename this a little bit. High stakes, fast paced and structured, and just like combining all of that together. So we've got definitely By a Silver Thread. I think we can throw in like all of the books by Rachel Aaron here, and we will. There's less books fitting into this category than I was expecting. There's a lot of more slower paced books here. All Systems Red, Renegades. Ooh, here's another good way to explain it. I'm hitting the Brandon Sanderson books. It's like a Brandon Sanderson book, except for in a Brandon Sanderson book, oftentimes it's only at like the end of the book where you get the Sanderlanche feeling of like everything's coming together so fast and so high stakes. But it's like that, but like feeling that way for almost the entire book. That's what I'm looking for throughout everything. And I acknowledge that I do have like a Brandon Sanderson book here, Skyward, but I do think Skyward's more fast-paced than a lot of his other books. Rules of Redemption, The Aeronaut's Windlass, along with The Dresden Files. Jim Butcher's another author that does this very well. Okay, I think that's actually it for this category, just these ones. I was expecting it to be a lot bigger, but I realized that actually there's a lot of slow-paced books in my 5-star favorites, but here's the ones that are faster-paced. And there we go. I have now organized all my 5-star reads. So I think we're gonna call this good enough. Let's see how many categories we have. We've got Culture Clash, Prickly Protagonist Struggles with Making Friends, Romance Without a Meet Cute, bonus points if it's Slow Burn, The World is Ending, but also The Rent is Due, A Detective Duo, STEM Slays, Connecting with Children, Unusual Powers for Intriguing Solutions, Serial Killer Leaning Boy Hunts Serial Killers, Alien Invaders Squirm into Brains for Mind Control, Boy with Magical Finding Abilities Helps Police, delves into psychology, It Was Always Meant to Be, We Fixed Each Other, and high stakes, fast-paced, structured. That's 15 categories. I'm so happy with any of these. If you have recommendations for me, especially ones that fit into multiple categories, please send them my way. I'm so excited to read more books with these tropes. Thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, may I recommend everything I love and hate in books? Here you go.